Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your NBA playoffs first round, game one, best bets episode. We have an entire crew joining us today. We are getting best bets from all across our landscape of great contributors and bettors, giving you the best bets for this weekend's games. 8 games on the slate, 4 games a day. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. The energy, the excitement. There's always a random upset that causes absolute mayhem. Going to be great to enjoy all this basketball. Joining me today to start us off by talking about the Sixers versus the Nets and the Warriors versus the Kings in game one. We've got Analytics Capper Albert Wynn. You can find him on Twitter at Analytics Capper. And J Money, regular temperature J. J Money. Find him on Twitter at JMoneyIsMoney. We will break down the best bets for you. We will give you those bets later on the show. We've got Jill Gallant and Sean Little giving us picks on Knicks, Cavs, and Suns, Clippers. Later on, Brandon Anderson and I will come back and we'll join you and we'll give you bet picks for Hawks, Celtics, Grizzlies, Lakers, and a little bit of hypothetical talk on the 1-8 since we don't know who they're going to be until Friday night. Reminder, everything we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks. You get up the second information on where the bets and money are coming in on. All right, Jay, Albert, AC, Jay and AC. Little heads up. I'm going to come back harder at you guys today. We got to make sure we get these picks right. You're going to be right because you're really good at this. And every time that I'm on the other side, I'm wrong. But I'm still going to come back at you. Jay, let's start with you, my man. Regular temperature Jay. What's your best bet for the game ones in these two series?
Yeah, full disclosure, I don't make my heavy bets. My strongest leans aren't on game ones. That's kind of like the fill it out game, but I will take the Sacramento Kings -1.
Okay. AC, what do you like this weekend?
Yep, I'm gonna have action on both those games. So I like the Nets plus 8.5 on the road against Philadelphia, and then I'm with J Money right now. I'm on the Kings. You can find them at Pick'em or -1, but I think the Kings win.
Okay, I'm on Warriors. I'm on the Warriors Kings under, and I have a lean with AC on Nets plus 8.5, but I'm not going to bet it. We'll talk about why here in a second. Let's go ahead and get into this. Jay, I'll give you first crack at it. Why do you like the Kings in game one versus the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, it's a huge spot for the Sacramento Kings, right? Obviously, first home playoff game in a while, I believe, since the early 2000s. This one, I think that it's going to be rocking. I actually like the Kings early and often in this one. Now, obviously, they could be a little bit uptight, right, for not being used to being in this spot. But I think this is a huge game for them. You got to come out with the win if you want to have a chance in this series. You don't want to go down 0-1 to the Golden State Warriors. We know that they have struggled on the road. I do expect them to win one of these games. So it's crazy because whatever happens in this one, the opposite, I will take the next game. But in this first game, I will take the Kings in this one, laying the point. I believe De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, they can get it going here, and it'll probably take a little time for the Warriors to figure out their matchup advantages as well. As the series goes, as it goes longer, that's probably an advantage for the Warriors, but early, I think the Kings have the home court advantage in this one. It's going to be rocking in there. I think they're going to light the beam here in game one. Give me the Kings.
All right, AC, what's your take on why you like the Kings here?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at both teams in a vacuum right now, the Warriors are in better form because the Kings, they're 1-4 in the last 5 games. They're 1-6 against the spread at home in their last 6 games. The Warriors, everybody talks about their struggles on the road. Matt, you and I kind of dive into this every single week. But head to head, they kind of dominate this matchup. They are 8-1 straight up in Sacramento against those same Kings. With all that being said, most of the books that you can go to, the Kings are favored. I think it's a huge tell by the books here. The Kings have been the better team the entire year. We know that they have an elite offense. And with the Warriors, their offense is touch and go. And I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on their third quarter. I like the Kings. I'm surprised Jay didn't do his trifecta spot because I think the Kings come out and win first quarter, first half, and full game.
Okay. I think you're both wrong. I'll tell you why. I brought this up on our podcast today with Raheem Palmer. Jay, do you remember the 2014 Toronto Raptors first round series versus the Nets? Do you remember that series?
I actually don't, to be honest.
So that was the first time in like a long time that the Raptors have made the playoffs, right? They have this like amazing season after they trade Rudy Gay, and it's Kyle and it's DeMar and it's all these guys, and there's so much hype, and they open the weekend, and there's the big panning shot of Jurassic Park. This is an incredible crowd, and like Masai's out there being like, fuck Brooklyn, all this stuff, right? Like, it's crazy. That is a lot of pressure and nerves. That's a lot of pressure, especially for young, inexperienced teams that have not been in this spot. De'Aaron Fox has never played in a playoff game. Domantas Sabonis has played in playoff games. He has not played in a game one in a franchise spot like this versus the Warriors. Like, Harrison Barnes has been there. But like Kevin Huerter's got a playoff run in him. He knows about big games. But like, that's where we're talking. Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. All the other key players, Keegan Murray, rookie, Davion Mitchell, second-year guy. This is an extremely high-pressure spot for a Kings squad. You talked about like the adjustment. Teams do not adjust well to Golden State. Steve Kerr's record in these game ones is absolutely phenomenal for a reason. It takes a while for you to adjust a Warrior style of play. Speed, movement, all these types of things. There is a tendency for teams in this kind of situation to get tight. If the Kings can't hit shots because they're tight, like, there's no chance here. They're going to have, like, the only way they're winning this game is with offense. They are 29th in defense at home. They're a worse home team than they are on the road. AC put in our chat, you like the Kings more here? Why?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. Those are very justified arguments. I can argue the other side. The fact that they haven't been here before, the fact that they're not feeling the pressure. It's the defending champs. They had a bad season. They're supposed to go in and dominate this team that's never been to the playoffs. And if you look at the Kings individually, those guys are not scared. Like, De'Aaron Fox is not going to be scared of the big moment. Malik Monk, who owns this team head to head, is not going to be scared of the big moment. Sabonis is going to dominate the glass. I think that the swing player here is going to be the Sabonis Draymond Green matchup. I know Green matches up very well against him, but if Sabonis is if he's aggressive offensively, I think he's going to get Draymond into foul trouble. And without Draymond, I think the Warriors are toast.
And Matt, one more thing. You can't forget, Mike Brown came from the Warriors. It's not like they're just facing up against this team. It's like they don't know what they're going to throw at him. I really think Mike Brown will have his team ready. If they want to have a shot at this series, you have to come out and punch the Warriors in the mouth early. And Andrew Wiggins as well. Main player, key player, come back in there. He's going to mess up everything. He's going to be super rusty as well. I'll be looking at the Kings to early and often in this one, AC. I do like them first quarter, first half as well, but full game, I don't see this as one where the Warriors come out in the third quarter. I actually think the Kings put their foot on their neck. This could be a smack city spot for the Kings, in my opinion. Then the Warriors come back in game two, man. The Warriors are not. I feel like exactly what you're thinking. That's what everybody's gonna think. All the money's on the Warriors here. The line hadn't budged. Kings come out here and win game one in emphatic.
That's not true though. So this open Kings -1, it flipped to Warriors -1, and then it flipped back. It moved the other way. This open Kings went to Warriors on the early, and then the public came in, and the public's pushing Kings because the public's like, come on, the Warriors aren't that good. Look at them. Like, I'm going to be all smart here. And I'm like, this is a matchup problem. This is not about like how good the Kings are. Like, I've agreed that like the Kings are underpriced in the market. The Warriors are overpriced as far as their overall series goes. It's just that when I get into the matchups, this does not look promising for them at all. Like AC mentioned, like the Domantas Sabonis stuff here. I really got to stress this. Sabonis in the regular season had a -17.3 net rating on court versus the Warriors. It's bad. Like, yeah. I went back and watched all of the pick and rolls that involved Sabonis in this series. Woo, it's not promising, guys. This is a tough one for them. Like,
the Kings, the Kings are not going to win because of their defense. No, that's for sure. I think the three of us can agree on that. I think it's going to be a run and shoot. I do agree with Matt. Maybe game one, there's an underlook there, but maybe Jay can back me up on this. From a betting principle, whether you take public, sharp money out of the equation, when there's a money line flip, that to me is a huge sign in the market. And then when it flips back, that's even a bigger sign to me. So like, I like the Kings a lot. I don't know if it's Max City yet, but it's most likely going to be my strongest NBA play of the weekend.
This is interesting.
Man.
So in the market right now, you can track this on the app. You can get +1.5 Warriors at a book, and you can get +1 Kings -115 at a book. Like, this is there. I'm waiting until the very end. I think the Kings money is going to continue to come in, and then I'm trying to get the best money possible on Warriors money line. I will say I like the under in this matchup as well. So the total here is 238.5 in the market. I've got this projected at 234.5. It's still sitting at 238.5. It hasn't moved. I think the under here is a pretty solid play. So Kings defense is bad at home, but the part of this is built off of the overall numbers for the Warriors and the Kings. I think the Warriors defense plays better here than it has on the road throughout the course of the regular season. Much of that's based, we talked about this on the series preview pod. You can go back and listen to it. That 4-man lineup that's got Steph and Clay and Draymond and Looney before we even get to Wiggins, that's a 109 defensive rating on the road this season. Like, think about that. Like, they have this terrible road record, and yet those starters not only kill their minutes, but they also wind up putting up a sub 110 defensive rating. So I think the Warriors are going. I genuinely think that this Kings offense is a regular season offense. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I love this Kings team. I'm not being like patronizing. I genuinely love it. Guys, this is such a step up. Like, this is such a step up with what you're going to be facing. You have to deal with you don't get like the soft, like, oh yeah, they're running out Jordan Poole and Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. No. You're not getting that. Like, you're going to be getting staggered Warriors rotations with multiple starters on the floor. This is a big challenge for them. So I don't mind the first half spot. I think there's a chance they get off to a pretty good spot and then Warriors wear them out by the end of the game. But I could also see it going the other way, where it's like they come out and that crowd. I've seen this a lot, where that crowd's supposed to be so amped and like, what a great opportunity, this huge home court advantage. And then like the other team, especially this Warriors team, it's like, oh no, it's 17-4, and the air just whoosh.
Man, in my opinion, I feel like the Warriors have to win with their depth. You don't want. I think the Kings starters can outplay the Warrior starters. They're not the same team. Steph Curry is not playing the same. Klay Thompson can go off. Remember, Wiggins is not in full shape right now. He hasn't been with the team for a while. That's going to throw them off. They will win with Gary Payton II, Kuminga, minutes like that, Jordan Poole as well. They, in my opinion, if the Warriors win this game one, it's going to be with their bench. You don't want to try to beat the Kings with their starters. They have the advantage when it comes up against the Kings bench, in my opinion. So if they try to run a tight rotation, 7 guys, leaving guys like Kuminga on the bench, that's where I feel like they actually have the advantage. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Kings put the Warriors out in the first round.
Okay. Let's move over to Sixers versus Nets. We'll see. I don't feel good about going against the two of you. I will say this right now. It's not like I'm like, you're like, oh, I'll show these guys. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to lose this bet already. Let's go to Sixers versus Nets. This series is just, it's unfortunate for all involved except the Sixers. We talked a lot about it. This is a pretty big mismatch. However, AC, I can't get to this number. Like, I'll start here. I can't get to this number. Total, I think, is pretty in line with what I'm expecting. I think the total is right on this game, but full season numbers, the Sixers have actually underperformed a little bit at home this season relative to their overall performance. So they're better on the road in terms of net rating at 8.5. Like, I have this projected with home court advantage at 5. If I stabilize that to full, like a normal, a standard home court advantage, I've still only got this at -6.7. So between 6.5 and 7, I can't get there to 8.5. And that's like, I went through and did another downgrade on the Nets after the season because I was like, well, I had them 3 points worse than they were, 3.5 points worse than they were with Durant and Kyrie, which I think is accurate. I kept that downgrade standard, and then I was like, well, okay, they finished under 500 with a negative net rating. Let's drop them to 4.5. Like, I did all of this, and I still can't get to this number. It's a lot of points. I hate this matchup, though, which is why this is a lean and not a bet for me. I don't want to be on the other side of Embiid when he's facing this kind of a front line. Why do you like the Nets here?
Yeah, if you look at the Sixers, their team is built for the playoffs, right? We know the playoffs, it's going to slow down. Possessions are going to be at its utmost importance. They're going to play a lot of pick and roll. And if you have the MVP at center, things are going to slow down even more, right? So this is a correlated bet. If I like the Nets, I also like the over, because I think the only way the Nets are going to cover is they just get out on the break, shoot 53s, and just just make it a playground type game. So with that being said, I think this is a great spot for Brooklyn to come out in game one. And I think even if they somehow shock the world and win here in game one, I still think the Sixers are going to have a gentleman's sweep and win in 5. But this is a good spot because they just played 3 days ago. Sixers beat them by like 30 points. I think a lot of the overinflated head-to-head stats are contingent on that. Again, it's really going to be based on if Brooklyn can impose the pace. If it's fast, I think they covered at 8.5.
Okay. The pace, I think honestly that makes me more concerned because I'm like more possessions tends to lean to more opportunities for points, which tends to exaggerate the spread a little bit. Jay, I know you don't have a best bet on this. You usually give us it's this or nothing for me. Do you have a this or nothing for me on Sixers Nets game one?
In the first game, I could only look towards the dog here. I have an angle that I've figured out over the past 3 years. When a team has lost all 4 matchups, I believe they've lost all 4 matchups to the Sixers this year. You want to take them in the game one of the playoff series. I did this with the Bulls last year versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm pretty sure, right? AC, they lost all 4
they
matchups
lost
to
all
the
4.
Sixers.
Philly covered
Yeah.
3 of the 4.
Exactly. So you have to throw the kitchen sink in them in the first game. You have to do something different in what you did in those 4 games. So this is the Nets' best opportunity to cover spread, in my opinion. Like I said, I did this last year with the Bulls. I believe they won outright versus the Milwaukee Bucks as well. Same type of number as well. So like I said, when you lose all 4 matchups in that first game of the playoff season, that's an all or nothing. You want to show that you can at least hang with these guys. Wouldn't be surprised if the Nets won, but yeah, I could not talk you off taking the points. It's Nets or nothing for me in this spot, and I think that the Sixers will even though it is Doc Rivers, I do think they'll get better as the series goes on. They'll figure out how to guard Mikal Bridges, and you could just look at Mikal Bridges' props as well for the Nets if you like them. He's gonna have to do well. He has revenge. He says that he was real depressed after the Sixers traded him on draft night as well. So that tells me that he's going to come to play in this series. And if he doesn't ball out, they have zero chance. We know that Claxton cannot match up with Embiid. They don't really, they run sharp, but come on now. They don't really have a backup center there as well. They don't really have a ton of depth that they trust as well. So Sixers could impose their will, but I think Nets' best chance to steal the game is in game one.
Doc, in game one's 14-16, but as a favorite, he's 10-9 against the spread. I want to look at what the round is for this because I think that I want to look at what first round is and whether he does well in that spot or not, because that feels like a relevant thing to consider here as like, does Doc do well in like the second round and on, or does he do it? He's better here. Okay, he's 7-5 against the spread as a home favorite in game one. So I don't know what to do with that one. I can't bet it. I feel like the Nets will have an opportunity here, but they're going to have to hit shots and they're going to have to get things to go their way. I feel like a lot of things have to go their way for them to hang within the number, and fewer things have to go the Sixers' way. I don't want to lay it. I don't want to bet it. I'm going to stay away on that one. I'm going to just have a lean on that side. All right. Next up, we got Joe Gallant and Sean Little. They're going to break down Suns Clippers, and on the other side of the bracket, they'll break down Knicks versus Cavs. That's up next.
What's good, my people? Sean Little, MSG Network, with my guy of the Buckets podcast. If you're following, you know we come with it all the time, Joe Gallant. Let's jump right into it. We're giving our best bets for Suns, Clippers, Cavs, Knicks. Gilles, what are you looking at in the matchup?
Yeah, for Cavs Knicks, I'm immediately looking to the second-year player, Evan Mobley. I'm going to be taking over 2.5 blocks and steals, or they call it stocks. That's sitting around plus 160. And then for the Suns and Clippers, I'm actually going to be looking at Nicholas Batum, 3-point prop, over 1.5 3-pointers at plus 105.
My best bet, Suns Clippers over 226.5 over at FanDuel. All right, Gilles, I'm coming right back to you. Break down the props for me while you looking at Evan Mobley.
Yeah, so for Mobley, really the main reason we want to take a look at him in this spot here, especially because of the odds, is the matchup. He's done this now in 3 of 4 games versus the Knicks, where he has combined to have 3 or more steals and blocks. And he's actually done it in 7 of his last 9 home games since the All-Star break. Now, I didn't count the last game of the year because, let's be real, Sean, he only played 12 minutes. It's pretty hard to get 2 blocks and 2 steals or get 3 of that in that quick a time. But really the main thing we want to look at is just recent play. Like since the All-Star break, he's averaging over 2 blocks per game, just under 1 steal. And the reason why we want to look at Mobley instead of, say, like Jared Allen is with Allen, Mobley gets a little bit more room to roam, and play passing lanes. It really helps his potential for steals. Another thing that's really good with Mobley because of that is he's able to go out and guard the perimeter. He actually finished the season, Sean, the most contested 3-point shots in the NBA and 4th overall in contested shots per game. And the Knicks, say what you will, but they shoot a lot of 3-pointers. They're top 10 in the NBA in 3-point attempts, 8th overall, 7th since the All-Star break. And I think Julius Randle, who I think he's going to play. I think Randall's going to have difficulty getting lift on his jump shot, maybe even having to shoot more threes as a result. He could get blocked a few times, maybe even give it up, and Mobley might get in there on the passing front in the lanes. So I think that helps Mobley on that front. Now, I will say for bettors, if this is a little too risky for you, you could take the safer approach. Look at over 1.5 blocks at plus money, but I'm a risk taker. We're taking Evan Mobley over 2.5 steals and blocks in game 1 versus the Knicks.
You know what's interesting about Julius Randle is that when he gets in tough spots, he usually doesn't give the ball up regardless. When he catches it, he's either shooting the 3, uncontested. Still, people don't respect his range at the moment. He had a great year shooting the 3. But even when he goes to the block and drives and gets caught, he doesn't typically give it up. He'll try the fadeaway. He'll try the fall away. And that does a couple pumps. He always gets it up. Like the difference between him and Brunson is Brunson will get in bad positions. He'll use his footwork. It's like, I don't really like what I got here. And he'll give it up. Julius will still attempt to get up the jump shot. And that does open up some opportunity for Mobley to pick up a block. All right. Talk to me about
we're looking at Nick Batum.
Last time I saw Nick Batum play the Knicks, by the way, just to go back to that game.
Yeah.
He tied it up at the buzzer, and it was a thriller, and the Clippers ended up getting the W, but it was a wild time. So, yeah, Nick Batum, an interesting fella. But, yeah, talk to me about over 1.5 threes.
Yeah, so normally I come on this show, I do 3-point props. You want to look at some stars sometimes in this matchup, but the way that they have these lines set up for both Booker and Durant, they're all sitting at over 2.5 or under 2.5. Just the odds just aren't there where you feel great about it just based on their pace of play and the way that they shoot the ball. But Nicholas Batum is a guy we want to look at because that's all he does. Man, he has taken 381 shots this year, Sean. 317 of them from 3-point. To put that in perspective, that's 83% of any shots he takes comes from 3-point range. So if you're betting on any prop for Nicholas Batum, it's got to be a 3-point prop. And one of the things that's really helpful with him too, he's actually been starting on the team with Paul George out. He's seen about a 3 to 4 minute bump in minutes per game in the 10 games since Paul George got hurt. Now, the one monkey wrench here is Marcus Morris, maybe coming back to the lineup, but I don't know if he's going to be able to be as effective as what Batum has been doing, especially because he's been fairly limited from a back injury. Now, for Batum, he actually averages, because he's a little bit older as well, this is why I wanted to bring this up, 2.1 3-point makes per game on 3 or more days rest, and he's shooting 42% from 3 points since the All-Star break. Now, immediately people will look at Batum and say, well, he hasn't really done very well against the Suns, who really actually defend the 3-point line at a top 5 level in the NBA. But like I mentioned, all he does is shoot threes. He's not going to the rim to try to challenge DeAndre Ayton and Kevin Durant. He's going to be shooting. And Kevin Durant in Phoenix, and no PG-13, I really project Batum to have to play a little bit more wing in this series to be able to match up and be able to switch as well in the 10 games without Paul George. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is looking at ladder opportunities because the 2 3-pointers is sitting at plus 105. But once we get into 3 or more, you're starting to get into the plus 450 range. And because of that, in the 10 games that Paul George has missed with Batum playing, he has hit 3 or more in 5 of those games. So there's definitely potential for maybe just a little bit more excess volume from 3-point range. But let's be safe here. Let's take over 1.5 3-pointers at plus 105.
Batum is also going to get open looks. He doesn't get a lot of contested He's not catching out. He's not coming off pin downs. He's usually hanging out in the corner, receiving a dribble drive, and usually gets a good look. If I had to guess, Jill, Batum has taken in the half court maybe 15 dribbles all season. You're so right. He's catching the ball. It's going up. That's what he does. He shoots threes.
Well, when we play these 3-point props, we always try to look at the ratios. Where are all these shots coming from? And a lot of guys, I feel pretty good when it's about 65 to 70%. It's very rare that you can get a guy where it's 80% and you're still getting plus money for a little bit of volume. So if he's going to probably take 5 3-point shots in this game just to be able to keep pace with this offense in game 1. So over 1.5 3-pointers, I'm shocked that it's still plus money.
And I have something that correlates with you. We're going to talk about it. I'm going Suns Clippers over 226.5 minus 110 over at FanDuel. Oh boy, do I like this spot. I'm going against the market here as well. Number opened at 229 and is now down to 226.5. I've seen it as low as 226 in some spots. So if you can get a 226 when you turn this Buckets podcast on, be my guest and take 226. Suns 8-0 with Durant. We know that whole story. Offensive rating with Durant was number 1 in the NBA over those 8 games at plus 120. Inflated, sure. They didn't play any real good teams in that stretch, but offensively, I still love their capabilities and what they're going to be able to do with Kevin Durant on the floor. He just opens everything up for Devin Booker, of course. And Devin has showed you how much he loves to play with Kevin Durant. He's been putting up almost 30 a game with Kevin on the floor. Don't underestimate what this does for DeAndre Ayton as well. He's going to get a lot of dump down balls on the block by himself because there's so much shooting around that starting 5 for Phoenix. He's going to be able to get a lot of easy buckets as well. In those 8 games, also with Kevin Durant on the floor, I got this from our guy, B.A. Brian Anderson. They gave up a 49% EFG percentage over that 8-game stretch. So that means, the other teams are playing with Durant on the floor during that stretch, and they were bad teams. The Nuggets came and played without anybody. They didn't even bring their roster. Those teams are shooting 49%. So I expect the Suns offensively to produce points, and the defensive rating with Durant on the floor may be a little overblown. Now let's go over to the Clippers. You were just talking about Paul George, hasn't played since March 21st. Now, in those games, he missed 9 games. In those games, guess what happened? The offense has been stellar, and of course, the defense has dropped off with PG being one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. Offensively, 119.8 offensive rating. That's 4th best in the NBA over those final 9 games. Now, we know the closing to the NBA regular season can be full of nonsense. Nobody playing, a lot of people sitting, not a lot of good matchups, and numbers can't get inflated. But over that 9 games, they played some really good defensive teams that were playing for something. They played the Pelicans 2x. We know they were battling to get in the play-in. They played the Grizzlies 2x. They played the Bulls, who were scrapping and clawing. They played the Lakers, who were scrapping and clawing. Those are all really good defensive teams. I think this is a spot where offensively they have been playing better against some of the top-tier defenses in the NBA. I don't see why that slows up in the playoffs against the Suns to open up the series here. Kawhi Leonard, I think, is all the way back. I call him the boogeyman. I think he is that lethal across the board when he catches the ball on the wing, on the elbow. He's back and ready to go. This is we always have our concerns with Kawhi and if he's going to play, etc. But we're years removed from that, and I know with Paul George being out, he's going to step up. I'm not worried about Kawhi. And Russell Westbrook, man, averaging 21 points a game in April. He's been a massive impact for the Clippers. I know a lot of people were worried about that move. It's funny. Tons of people were worried about the Russell Westbrook move, and everybody loved the Kawhi move to Dallas. And it quite worked out the exact opposite way. So I like this spot to go over 226.5. It feels like a 120, 110, 112 type of game. Give me over 226.5. The Clippers have been playing well. We know what the Suns can do offensively. They're going to be at home. I think the Clippers are getting a little disrespected here. I think they keep it competitive, and it runs over 226.5.
Well, the one thing I was going to mention to you, Sean, another reason why I'm surprised that this total is trending down, because historically, game 1 through game 4 over the last 10 years has actually trended towards the over, closer to 60%, where it's game 5 to game 7, where it's nut crunch time. that's when the unders start trending towards low scoring games. So if you're going to be looking at overs, especially in a series like this, you want to be looking at the start of the series as opposed to the end.
To recap, Gilles on Evan Mobley over 2.5 stocks. That's steals and blocks plus 160. Nicholas Batum over 1.5 3-pointers at plus 105. 2+ money plays there from G-Dog. And I am going to go over 226.5 in Suns Clippers. I'm going against the market. I think it comes in. Give me the over. And it's always fun to root for an over. Let's have fun and cash. Over 226.5 Suns Clippers. That's going to do it for me and Gilles Gallant. For Jill, I am Sean Little. We'll see you next time.
Okay, we're going to wrap up the game one previews for the weekend with the 2-7s. We're going to talk about the Boston Celtics versus the Atlanta Hawks, as well as the Memphis Grizzlies taking on those Los Angeles Lakers. Joining me to talk about those, as well as some hypothetical 1-8s we'll have to talk about since we're recording this before the play-in tournament wraps up, is Brandon Anderson, NBA futures analyst. Brandon, will start here with the Hawks and the Celtics. You and I broke this down the other day on the pod in terms of the series preview, which you can check out in the feed. But this game one spot is kind of interesting. Here's one of the things that is kind of annoying to me about this. We don't have any data with Quinn Snyder with the Hawks. We don't have any data with Joe Mazzulla with the Celtics. I don't have any coaching experience here. I have the history of the Celtics in terms of this core, which I think is a little important, not completely unimportant. Round one, series one, round one, game one, since the bubble. The Hawks are 2-1 straight up, or I'm sorry, the Celtics, this is actually including the bubble. So bubble 2021 and 2022. So we got 3 years. Celtics in round one, game one, 2-1 straight up, 1-2 against the spread. That includes last year when they were 4-point favorites versus the Nets, and the Nets covered because the Celtics had to win on that Tatum game winner. They did cover and win versus the Sixers without Ben Simmons. I remember when Ben Simmons was a thing in 2020. So that's the limited amount of sample that we have. When we take a look at this game in the Action Network app, Celtics are 9-point favorites versus the Atlanta Hawks. Total 230.5. What's your best bet for Hawks Celtics?
I'm going to go a prop on this one. For a lot of the reasons that you just said, I'm going to stay away from the total. Of course, on buckets, we talked about it. I love Boston in the series. I think this is going to be a quick series for Boston. But let me do a prop here, and I'm going to keep it very low and simple, unlike myself here. But we talked about this one on buckets as well. Onyeka Okongwu. We talked about why we love him, why we think this is not a Capella series. Okongwu, 10 points, 5 rebounds. Do it as a same game parlay. 10 points, 5 boards, plus 165. So just points, the line is 8.5. If you look at Okongwu the last 15 games, he's been playing more. This to me is a Quinn Snyder change. We're slowly getting a little bit more Okongwu, but more importantly, he's really crashing the offensive glass. And that's a spot we saw Atlanta dominate against Miami in that play-in game. It's going to be harder. The Celtics are number 1 in defensive rebounding rate, but 2 games this year, 2 meaningful games against the Celtics, Okongwu had 5 offensive rebounds, both of those games. So he's shown that he's very good at that skill. Last 15 games for Okongwu, he's averaging 12.9 points, 7.5 rebounds a game, almost half of those on the offensive glass. So here's the numbers for this same game parlay. Again, 10 points, 5 rebounds. He's had at least 5 rebounds 16 games in a row. So that part of the leg is pretty soft here. He's at least 10 points, 13 out of the last 15 games. He's hit 10 and 5. He's hit 10 and 6. I just didn't see a 6 out there for this. He's hit 10 and 6, 13 out of 15 games. We're getting a plus 165. I think this should be more like a minus 200. I played it once on a best bet that we wrote about, and of course he missed it by 1 rebound that day on his lowest game in the last 15. But I'm going back to it. We don't think this is a Clint Capella series. I don't know that his athleticism is going to hold up. He only averaged under 20 minutes a game against the Celtics this year in the 2 meaningful games. So Okongwu, 10 points, 5 rebounds, get it done.
Okay. So this is really interesting, and I want to kind of break this down. Do we think the better value is on Okongwu overs or Capella unders. I was leaning Capella unders, but as we kind of talked about it, as I was listening to you, maybe it's on Okongwu overs, because even if Quinn doesn't get to, I can't play Capella in the series right away, Okongwu can be productive and we still cash, even if it's in fewer minutes. Does that track?
It tracks. And here's the thing. I started where you did with, okay, well, let's start by fading Capella a little bit. Here's the problem. I think the books got there first. Do you know what Capella's lines are right now?
Stop tipping these books off, Brandon.
I know. We shouldn't have put this on our podcast a couple days ago. Capella's points line, which is what I looked for first, because dude can rack up rebounds. Even if he plays a little less, he can just get those rebounds. And he can miss those layups and then do the old Moses offensive rebound, like 3 in 1 possession. The rebounds line is 10.5, which is not super high, but Capella can put up huge games. His points total is 9.5.
I saw that.
I can't fade a 9.5. I can't go under, like he did. He went under it against the Celtics. If he's only playing 19 minutes, he can go under it. It's so low. So I think the Okongwu over, I think they're onto the Capella line. So yeah, I went there. I wanted to go if I like same game parlay. Well, let me add in, if we're going Okongwu over, why don't we add in the Capella unders? I just think those lines are a little too sharp for me, where the Okongwu stuff hasn't quite gone up enough where it should be.
Okay, points rebounds. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, points rebounds is 21.5. Points rebounds assists is 21.5.
That sounds about right. This is Capella, right?
Yeah, it's Capella.
Yeah.
So I guess we could like just stick with points, rebounds, assists, because it gives you a little bit of a margin. Because like I think I want the Capella under still. I think I'm willing to go ahead and bet it. I might SGP this with Okongwu when his points, rebounds, assists gets added. They only got his points. They've only got his individuals up. They're not doing the combos yet. So I think I might honestly put these together. So this is the question: is how quick is Quinn to adjust here?
Yeah.
Does Quinn, is it so bad by the third quarter that he's like, okay, this is not going to be a Clint series. I'm just going to have to play Onyeka. Or does he say, like, I got to stick with him? Because my assumption had been with the Utah stuff when he was playing Rudy, that's a different dynamic where Rudy's a franchise player making a max and he's an all-star. When you mean something to the franchise at that level, there is a much harder time pulling off, hey, I got to sit you. Versus we saw, like I mentioned this the other day with Chris Finch, like Chris Finch has the authority to bench Rudy Gobert because Rudy Gobert is not like an integral part of the Timberwolves. He would have a harder time benching Anthony Edwards or Karl-Anthony Towns in a matchup than he would Rudy Gobert. Clint's not in that spot. Like the future is Onyeka Okongwu. They tried to trade Capella last summer to the Wolves. If the Gobert deal doesn't go down, Capella is a Wolf this season. Like that's a thing. I will go ahead and say that that's my belief based off of what off the people I've talked to. Hey, still time, buddy. Might work out this summer, honestly. But the future is Onyeka Okongwu.
Yeah.
So like, does Quinn go that route? Because one, if you have realistic expectations, and these teams do, they'll try and win every series. They'll try and make a miracle run. They're competitors. But like, if the front office is like, look, our long-term plan is Onyeka, and they would have had to have talked about that with Quinn when they hired him, then like that gives an authority to Snyder to be able to be like, I can play Onyeka here because it's essentially a tryout building momentum for next season. Now, this is like a complicated thing that we're talking about here, layers versus like the base stuff here. This might just be as simple as, even if Capella it does play, he might not be productive. The Celtics, we talked about this, have the best defensive rebound mark in the league. Like they battle for rebounds. They do not let you, you are not going to beat the Celtics with hustle plays. It's not going to happen. So I kind of still like the Capella under, but I do definitely agree with Brandon's assessment.
So just to chime in quickly on that, my bet, the reason why my bet is specifically Okongwu 10 points, 5 boards is your assessment on how quickly will this thing happen that we're projecting. And you and I have talked about this a lot in buckets. We're not the coaches, right? We can make the mistake, both of us, of here's what I would do, here's what's going to happen. And those are not the same thing. My bet is very specifically I don't think that's going to necessarily happen yet. And I still think Okongwu hits this in his usual 20 minutes off the bench anyway.
Yeah.
Like, fouls are not an issue because you're only playing 20 off the bench. Who cares? Go ahead and foul. Just keep on playing. We only got you for 20. He's hitting this even in the limited role. If I felt better about the switch coming, if I felt better about maybe he plays 25 or 30, I would be doing escalator here. I'd be doing, okay, now give me a 12 and an 8. Give me a double-double. I'm not going to do that for game one. I'm taking, actually, I know this is a plus 165. I'm playing what I think is actually a very safe play in this one. I'm playing the safe route to kind of ease into this, and then I'll probably look to do it more aggressively if it goes well.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go ahead and bet the other way. I feel confident enough in at least wagering on it. Like I said, I'll go low on it because, quite frankly, I will play yours heavier because you're a much better prop better than me. So we'll go ahead and go that route. So I think the other one I've kind of got like a little bit of interest in on a prop side. Let me talk about side total real quick. This is a big number. I have this at 8.5. So I'm not that far off of the market here. The problem is that I don't know if the Hawks are going to try or not. Like, the Hawks and Bulls both pulled off games where they finally tried. Welcome, guys. Glad to see you. Glad you could join us. 83 games in. If the Hawks try and focus and play like they did versus Miami, the Celtics will win this game, but the Hawks will cover. That's like, and to be perfectly honest, that like leads a lot more into what, like, I kind of made the case for Atlanta a little bit in terms of the variance in our pods, but that leans a lot more into the sweep value and Celtics minus 2.5 for Brandon. Because if I'm sitting here saying the Hawks can try and it's not going to matter, well, they're probably not going to try all 4 games because it's the Hawks. So there's a little bit of value there, but I want to see what game one looks like. I'm anxious to bet all these games because it's so exciting. I can't find value on this game one line. 9, it feels like a lot. My numbers are like, no, this is about right. Like, it's a little bit of a bump there because the other problem is like, okay, well, what if the Hawks try? Well, what if the Celtics try more? And the Celtics are theoretically going to be maybe healthy, and that changes things a little bit. By the way, Jaylen Brown, the vase man, the vase man, no wrap on him today at practice. So something notable for his performance as well. The only other one that I've kind of got, by the way, total. So I have 2 numbers for totals. I have one that basically accounts for random possessions that are outside the you can't really define them as half court or transition. They're just like random broken plays, essentially. I have one number for that. And then that case, I have an over. If you remove that, which I did mid-season and started to have even more success, I did real well on unders this season, but I did even better once I removed those to get a really strong sense of where the under spots are. When it's just half court and transition numbers, I get an under. So this number is smack in between 2 of my figures. Some teams I would be like, this isn't going to be a random game. Again, it's the Hawks, so I really can't count on whether or not this is going to be a random possession game or not. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stay away from a total here as well. And again, part of this is mitigated on the Hawks didn't defend all year, and then they defended versus Miami, but Miami's offense is also trash. So the Celtics offense is not trash. I'm going to stay away from side total here is my big thing for you. I lean Hawks plus 9. If this gets to 10, I'm going to bet Hawks and hate myself for it. I lean under for a number of reasons. I think Hawks defense, I think probably Hawks team total is more specifically what I would want, because I do think that the switching scheme of Boston is going to absolutely tear down them. The only other play that I've kind of wanted to look at as far as a prop goes is I want to talk about DeAndre Hunter, who played really well. Like, he plays better in games where the stakes matter more. For whatever reason, he kind of drifts throughout. Regular season versus the Celtics, Hunter averaged 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. So an 18 PRA he averaged. Shot 47% from the field, just 33% from 3, but he did take 5 threes per game, which is kind of a high number. So that 14 roughly PRA number That goes against a 18.5 in the market for him. He probably plays more minutes. I kind of like the value on over for DeAndre Hunter. Do you have any thoughts on DeAndre Hunter and whether there's some value to be found there?
Yeah, I have thoughts, and my thoughts are going to be in the way of, let me comment on Saddiq Bey and why I'm a little concerned now about both thoughts that I'm about to share. So Saddiq Bey was the play that we made in the play-in game, and that one popped for us. We hit the over 9.5 by halftime. We hit the alternate over before the end of the third quarter. That line jumped now. So Saddiq Bey has gone from 9.5 to 11.5 points. I still kind of like it, right? I still think there's some value there, just not near as much as there was before. He's averaged 14 points a game the last 10 before the finale. He's getting the threes up. He had 17 points in that Miami game. He got 9 3-pointers up. So at 11.5, he's over this 7 out of those 10 games. And of course, against Miami. But why I mentioned that in response to your DeAndre Hunter bet is part of the reason I liked the Saddiq Bey play against Miami is that John Collins hadn't really been playing against Miami. And so that probably meant more minutes for Bey. But there are only so many minutes for these guys here. I don't know if I necessarily feel confident on, is Collins going to play? Collins is really good. I don't know when they feel like playing him or which series. Is Bey or Hunter, are they going to eat each other's minutes? Do they both get high minutes because we get less Collins, or Collins at the 5 for a stretch? I don't know that I feel confident in that answer. So I would probably play, I was going to say Saddiq Bey is over, but maybe like a half unit sort of thing rather than an aggressive multiple unit like last time. I don't mind the Hunter angle, but I don't think I'd play Hunter and Bey. Do you feel like there's enough minutes here that I'm overthinking this and they can both be good plays?
I think Bey plays. I think he plays a lot off the bench. I think you need wings versus Boston. You need shooting. And I think Saddiq's earned a lot, like some respect from them as far as that goes. He's been good enough for them. Here, actually, I think is the number that we want. Points and rebounds only is 15.5. I think there's a pretty good, like, we talked about how Boston, like, they don't allow rebounds. I get that. I am conscious of that. However, he's going to play versus smaller lineups off the bench, right? Celtics get a little bit smaller when they go to bench lineups. So I think that there's a shot here for Bey. Let's like ballpark it. Like if he can grab 4 boards, okay, now we're down to 11.5 on the points, right? Which is like what the projection is. If he has a 5 rebound game, we just need double digit scoring. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of like Saddiq Bey over 15.5 on points rebounds. What do you think?
Do you like that more than your Hunter, or are you still sticking with Hunter ahead of it?
I think it might stick with Bey. I think I might like Bey a little bit more than Hunter.
It does make sense given this matchup, given Tatum, Brown, and who the Boston Celtics are. It makes sense. Like we could be coming back on both of these guys all series. So
by the way, if I look at the rotations and Marcus Smart gets staggered on the Saddiq Bey minutes, that's it. We're done. Like I'm out on Saddiq the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there are enough dangerous spots coming from Boston. That's why I think we want to be careful with some of these getting in here. The only other thing I'll say on side spread, I'm not playing a side or spread here, but the one that I might play live, I mentioned this on Buckets, Atlanta, since Quinn Snyder took over, has been a really hot starting team. And we saw that the other night, and I did not have the stat then, and I wish that I did. They came out hot in Miami, which granted, there's only like 4 fans at the game when it starts, but that's not going to be the case here. Atlanta is plus 9.5 net rating first quarter under Quinn Snyder. So I will like Boston, and I will not be afraid of, oh no, it's the second quarter and the Hawks are ahead by 6. What will the Boston Celtics ever do? Like the Celtics are going to win the game. I'm not that worried about it. And Atlanta can blow a lead, whatever number it's at. I'm not going to be that thrown off by it. But
okay,
if Atlanta gets the quick lead or kind of cuts into the line, like when we get a Boston on -5 or under, of course, that means Atlanta's ahead by a bunch. But if we get down to that range, I think that's the one spot I'd play aside here.
Okay, so we'll just build a same game parlay that's Capella under and Okongwu over and Celtics -4.5 alt line and the under at an alt line and
Atlanta first quarter. Don't forget that.
Atlanta
Let's
first
just
quarter.
throw it all in.
Yeah, and we'll throw it all that in. One more, I will say, I'm gonna bet this. Like I'm gonna bet this right now, and there's a -110 in the market. Trae Young points and rebounds over under 28.5. Trey hates switches versus teams that have length. Trey's really good when there's a reason that he beat the Sixers. If you play drop, Trey's amazing. Again, I don't know why the fuck Miami decided to play drop in that game. I'm still baffled. I'm like, you killed them last year by switching. What are you doing? And I see Bam Adebayo retreating into the paint. I'm like, you're giving him the floater. It's literally the shot he wants. You're literally giving him the one shot he wants more than anything. Celtics will not do that. Now, look, if Robert Williams plays, this is a Missoula thing, right? If they're like, no, we need Williams for the rim protection and the rebounding. If Robert Williams plays, they play drop with Rob. So that'll be a concern for me based off of the injury report. And when that comes out, he's not on any of these props. He's not announced in or out, right? Am I right on that?
Correct. Yeah.
So there's been no injury report updated on these games yet. They don't have to file injury reports until 24 hours before. If Rob Williams is cleared, the value on this goes a little bit down, but I will still believe that the Celtics will switch everything and they'll play Trey aggressively. Playing Trey straight up is the way to go. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was ready to fade Trey into oblivion in this series. He actually had surprisingly good numbers against them in the regular season. So when I looked that up, I was like, oh, all right, he actually got points. He got a bunch of assists. The numbers weren't too bad. So I will probably sit out game one just to see. But it certainly seems like the angle that's happening. I think that we're headed toward a nightmare series for Trey here.
Yeah, so that's my thing is I think we're going to lose too much value after game one.
That could be.
I think we're going to get hit with he drops to 26.5, 25.5 after game one because I have to look back and see what his Miami numbers were last year for what the props were.
I was going to say, if we're right, that won't detract me at all. He's going to be putting up 18s and 20s and whatever. So I don't think that would push us too far back, but I get the point.
Okay, let's go to the other series in the 2-7s, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Los Angeles Lakers. The fabulous Laker. I gotta say this. I'm a hater. I'm sure Lawrence Tanner is a really nice guy. I hate him as a PA announcer. I hate the entire vibe of Lakers games. You could say I'm a hater. That's fine, but I'm pretty generous. I'm pretty generous with PA announcers. I think there's a lot of good ones that are really good. I just for some reason Tanner, the whole show, it seems like I'm going to a jazz show, and I'm just not. It's not my vibe when we talk about these.
I mean, I think that's what they're going for, right?
Yeah, a little bit. The line on Lakers Grizzlies as far as where we're at pre-flop before the series begins, this line has been pretty interesting to track. Open 3. It's now Grizzlies minus 3.5. Total is 229. Brandon, what's your best bet for Grizzlies Lakers?
I'm going to take the Grizzlies. Give me the Grizzlies to cover and win the game. LeBron James, notably good basketball player, LeBron James. We got a lot of data on playoff LeBron in road game ones for LeBron's career. Straight up, LeBron James is 3-14 all time. LeBron does not win road game ones. He feels the defense out. He kind of just tries to figure the series out and starts to adjust and close in later. His points go down from about 29 a game the rest of the series to just over 25. That's significant. His assists have been going up in these games, so that's a possible prop way you can play this. That 3-14 record, the last 10 losses are all by 8 points or more as well. So these aren't even necessarily we got a couple coin flips in there. Now, this doesn't mean LeBron's out and the Lakers are done and that's the end. Despite 3-14 in road game ones, and those same series, LeBron's team was 9-8. They still won more than half of the series. But we talked on Buckets about how I like the Lakers for this series. I like LeBron to solve this. We talked about the Grizzlies being gimmicky and LeBron can figure this out. But early on, Darvin Ham, I don't trust a lot yet. I don't know what the rotations look like. And I don't think that he does either. I don't know if this is a D'Lo spot. I don't know if he knows that. I don't know if I like that Hachimura played all the closing minutes down the stretch. Spoiler alert, I didn't. I did not like that. Thank you very much. So I think it's going to take some time for the Lakers to figure out the right rotations. I think they also need a little time to slow the pace down and learn that that's going to be the way to win this in half court. I think it's going to take some time. So give me the Grizzlies to win game 1, even though I'm going to like the Lakers for the series.
Yeah, I'm going with you. I'm going Grizzlies. My inclination was kind of the other side of this, which is like, I don't love, we talked about this in the series preview. I don't love Memphis in situations where there's a lot of emotion and hype. It gets to their heads and they get out of control. I don't like the matchup because Xavier Tillman is going to get destroyed by Anthony Davis. I don't like the matchup with the guards are fine. Like Dennis Schroeder will probably be a pest for Desmond whenever he's playing him, or Tyus. But like Tyus and Ja are better than, and Desmond are all better than Schroeder and Austin Reeves and all these dudes. Whistle or not, like there's gonna be a bad whistle. But I think in general, here's the other thing. Grizzlies at home this season, 74, 51, and 2, 59% against the spread. They've been great this season at home.
Yeah.
My inclination first was like, I'll just play the money line, but then I was like, this is under the 4. And if this is 3, with under 10 seconds to go, the Lakers are going to foul and the Grizzlies are going to hit free throws and they're going to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 3.5. I'll probably do a half unit play on this because I am really worried about the matchup and I am really worried about the whistle. But in general, your stat about LeBron, you're right. It's a feel out game. He always takes game 1 as like okay, let's see what this is going to look like. And then he dissects it and he comes back. I think the spot here, Brandon, is Grizzlies game 1. And then we hammer Lakers game 2. Like, I think that's our move. I'm going to hold you to this because I feel very much like you're going to get shook when the Lakers lose. And be like,
I absolutely am going to get shook, especially after watching the play-in the other day.
I know.
So I need you to hold me to this because I'm on the Lakers. I'm on them for the series. But if I'm right about the things that we're saying we want to be right about, I absolutely am going to be totally shook off of this Lakers team.
Yeah, don't want to do that. Like, we got to stay the course and be like, they're not as bad as they looked in the play-in, and they're not as bad as they looked in game 1. Game 2 is the spot.
I think too, maybe I'm over conspiracy theorying this. The fouls thing is such a talking point going into the series. It's on every person's talking point because it has to be, because the Grizzlies foul a lot and the Lakers live at the line. And we just saw the huge foul thing down the stretch in the play-in game. Maybe we get a softer whistle, a kinder whistle in Memphis just to start the series, set the tone. See, look how fair the referees are being. Yay, Lakers. Yay, Grizzlies. Like, maybe we get a little bit of a softer whistle to start out before the Lakers really grind that. So I think that it's probably nothing, but certainly doesn't hurt our position here. I'll say too, because I'm me, you thought about, well, maybe I should just play the money line and be safer here. Because I'm me, I thought maybe I should play a Grizzlies alternate. What about a Grizzlies by 8 or 10? But part of that is not because I'm so confident in the Grizzlies. It's more the opposite. It's more, please don't let this be a close game. Holy cow, I do not want a close game. The Grizzlies are not good in the fourth quarter. They're bottom of 5 in net rating. The Lakers are 3rd in fourth quarter net rating. We saw this happen last year in the Memphis-Minnesota series. There were some troubles for both teams in the fourth quarter and blown leads. We saw this happen with the Lakers the other night. They came back late. I was ready to say, okay, I only want the Grizzlies if they win by a whole bunch of points, right? That's the only way I'm going to feel good. However, last 19 Lakers games, 19, that's a lot of games. They have 1 loss by more than 7 points.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the data that I have here and say, okay, I think the Grizzlies do lead by 10 or 12 or 14 or something. But then the fourth quarter thing still happens and we still win and we still cover the 3.5 because the free throws and we sneak out. But maybe the Lakers make a bit of a push at the end because LeBron, and it's going to happen. So I'll stay away from the alts and not get too aggressive here. It's a new Brandon. I'm trying to just get us some money. Don't go crazy with the alts and the long lines. Let's just get some wins, get things started out right.
The first time you lose one of these, you're going to be right back to, that didn't work. We're right back to taking the alts.
Of course.
We got to get out of here, but real quick, my favorite prop for this game is points, rebounds, Jared Vanderbilt over 10.5. His double-double is 20-1. I'm taking that too. No Brandon Clark, period, and dot. Jaren in foul trouble. They're going to have to switch a lot on LeBron. Jackson's going to be in foul trouble. Vando's going to eat in this series. I love Vando props. I'm going to take the 10.5, and I'm going to take the double 20-1.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know if I have a specific prop here. I mentioned the LeBron numbers. If we're going to do the LeBron angle, looking for like a points under, assists over combo, the assists have gone up for him in these game ones 2016 forward. So I think part of the thing we're saying, I'm not saying LeBron is passive. LeBron should do more. Come on, LeBron, go. You take the shot. Don't just pass the ball away. Like, we're done. We've done that a decade ago. I think LeBron knows I got a lot of new guys here. D'Lo and Austin Reeves and Jared Vanderbilt. Like, we got dudes that need to learn how to live in the moment. So let me get my teammates going. That's a good team basketball move. So I think if you like that angle, you go assists over and you go points under, or maybe that's a spot where you do like a double, get the assists in there, that sort of thing. So that would be one prop angle, but mostly I think I'm just going to stick with the Grizzlies side and then reevaluate after a game.
Okay, that is going to do it. Oh, before we get out of here real quickly, we do have to do this real quick. 1/8. Okay, we don't know who it's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be Wolves or Pelicans. We don't know if it's going to be Bulls or Heat. Are there any best bets that you're going to have on either of those series on the game ones? Is there any angle that you like? I will tell you that I'm probably going to like the spread versus Denver, regardless of who comes out of that one, is going to be my lean. And then on the other side, I'm probably going to like the Bucks to cover what's going to be a huge number. I don't think either of those teams are in their class. Denver is more matchup inconsistent, and I think that both the Wolves and the Thunder present some problems that'll keep it within the number. I like Denver to win, but I do think that the West covers, the East does not.
And just to be clear on these, those are game one specific angles, not series of bet angles, correct?
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I would say, I think Denver, my inclination at first is going to be to maybe look for an over in that game. I could see just a lot of points coming. We're going to get a tired out team and a youngish team, whether it's the Timberwolves or the Thunder. So I don't want to look, I don't do a lot of totals, but that feels just like this gets away and gets to a lot of points for both teams there. Yeah, I don't know that I have an angle on the Eastern side. If it's the Bulls, I've watched the Bulls play the Bucks like a billion times, and this is not going to end well for me, noted Bulls fan. So I don't think I would want any part of a Bulls. I don't know what you'd have to set a Bulls plus something at for me to be like, well, okay, I suppose I'll be in on that. If it's Miami, I'm going to be tempted because we've seen Miami push Milwaukee. We've seen Miami beat Milwaukee, but we've also seen them like completely lay an egg and roll over. So yeah, I will be watching to see, but the quick turnaround and a tired Miami team after a long week as well means I'm probably going to be stepping in gently on these series. So I may look at a Miami side cover. I think that's the only side underdog that I'd consider, but mostly I'm probably going to be cautious on both of these games and then kind of reevaluate from there. I'm not really expecting either of these to be much of a series. Whoever comes out, whoever it is, I think the Bucks and the Nuggets are in a different class by multiple tiers, and we'll just eventually figure this out and take care of it.
All right. If you got plays on it, you can find them in the Action Network app. I want to thank everybody for joining us all throughout the week on these podcasts. Still got more for you tomorrow. We got a futures episode. Brandon's going to break it down with Joe Delera and Jim Turvey, as well as we're going to have best bets for the Friday games. You can check that out in the feed. My thanks, David Payne, for putting together this very complicated episode. It's a lot of work for him, and I really appreciate him putting in that work. He's been great this week. We've done so much content. Shouts to David for putting in all that work. Thanks to all of our contributors on the Best Bets episode. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.